Most people in Britain have no idea where they really stand on the wealth ladder. You might think you are solidly middle class, you own a home, you have a pension, you earn a reasonable salary. But if you have never actually calculated your net worth, not your income, not your house price, your net worth, then you are navigating your financial life without the most important number on the map. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which rung of the UK wealth ladder your household occupies. Some of what you find will be reassuring, some of it may not be. But all of it is worth knowing. Before we go further, one important distinction. These numbers refer to household net worth, not income, not what your home is worth, net worth. The calculation is straightforward. Take everything your household owns, your home, any savings, pension pots, investments, vehicles and other assets. Then subtract everything you owe, your mortgage, any personal loans, credit card balances, car finance, student loans. What remains after that subtraction is your net worth. It is the most honest single number in personal finance, and most people have never calculated it. The data we are using is drawn from large-scale household wealth surveys adjusted to reflect current UK figures. We are not recycling American statistics. These are numbers grounded in British reality. Now, let us start at the bottom and work our way up. The lower class, bottom 25% of British households. If your household net worth is below roughly £18,000, you sit in the bottom quartile of British household wealth. At this level, assets are very limited. There may be a small amount in a current or savings account, perhaps an older vehicle, but debts, student loans, credit card balances, car finance, frequently offset what little is owned. In many cases, net worth is close to zero. In some, it is negative. This is not automatically a reflection of income. That's an important point. Someone can be earning £30,000 a year and still sit in this bracket, if they carry significant debt and have had limited opportunity to build assets. People in this group are often very early in their careers, recently graduated, recovering from a difficult period, or simply in industries where building savings is genuinely hard. Unexpected costs at this level are not just inconvenient, they are destabilising. There is no financial buffer to absorb them, which means every surprise expense, a boiler, a car repair, a gap between jobs, lands directly and painfully. But position is not destiny, and we will come back to that. Lower middle class, 25th to 50th percentile, move up to the next bracket, and your household net worth sits somewhere between £18,000 and £175,000. This is the lower middle class range of the British wealth distribution. Something shifts at this level. People have started building real assets. But the critical thing to understand is where almost all of that wealth is concentrated. It is in the house. For most households in this bracket, the majority of their net worth is home equity. The difference between what their property is worth and what they still owe on the mortgage. It has not come from deliberate investment strategy, it has come from buying a home, paying the mortgage and watching property values rise. There may be a modest amount in a workplace pension, some savings, but the liquid, accessible, investable portion of their wealth is usually surprisingly thin. This creates a specific and underappreciated kind of fragility. A household with £120,000 in net worth sounds financially comfortable, but if £100,000 of that is tied up in home equity, inaccessible without selling or remortgaging, then the actual financial cushion available for emergencies, opportunities or shocks is far smaller than the headline figure suggests. If the boiler fails, if one partner loses their job, if a car needs replacing, the response has to come from a very shallow pool of liquid savings, new debt or painful budget adjustments. The net worth number provides comfort. The day-to-day financial reality does not always match it. From here, households tend to move in one of two directions. Many progress slowly, their net worth growing modestly over time as mortgage equity accumulates and pensions tick upward. A smaller fraction, those who begin investing deliberately, who reduce debt intentionally, who increase their income, can accelerate significantly and reach the next bracket within a decade rather than two. The starting point is not fixed, but the direction is rarely accidental. The median, where half of Britain sits. We have now reached the midpoint, the 50th percentile. The household at exactly the median has more wealth than half of Britain and less than the other half. That number, adjusted to current UK figures, is approximately £175,000. Let that land for a moment. When most people see headlines about rising house prices, surging pension values or the growing wealth of British households, they assume the typical British household must be doing reasonably well. A median net worth of £175,000 is the reality behind those headlines. And what does £175,000 actually look like inside a real British household? It almost certainly does not look like £175,000 sitting in a savings account. The vast majority of it is home equity. A portion is in a workplace pension, growing but typically underfunded relative to what retirement will actually require. Liquid savings, the kind you can access without consequence, are usually modest. Enough for some emergencies, but not all of them. Consumer debt is present but broadly manageable. Perhaps a car on finance, a credit card with a running balance. The median household in Britain is getting by, income is steady, credit is accessible, the mortgage is being paid, but they're largely treading water financially rather than genuinely building. The wealth is real, but most of it is locked away, and the margin available for absorbing shocks or capturing opportunities is narrower than the headline figure implies. The households that move upward from this point do so through deliberate choices, investing a portion of income consistently, reducing the debt load, or finding ways to grow earnings. Small, sustained actions at the median can produce genuinely transformational results over a decade or two. Upper middle class, 50th to 75th percentile net worth between approximately £175,000 and £550,000, places a household in the upper middle class range of British wealth. Something meaningfully different begins to happen here. Home equity is still present, often substantial, but it is no longer the whole story. Pension pots at this level are more meaningfully funded. Savings and investments are beginning to establish themselves as a genuine part of the picture. A household with £400,000 in net worth might see it roughly split, perhaps half in property equity, half in pensions, ISAs, and other savings and investments. That shift matters more than the number itself. When a household's net worth is diversified, rather than concentrated entirely in a single illiquid asset, the character of its financial life changes. There is more flexibility, more ability to absorb unexpected costs without crisis, more ability to take advantage of opportunities, a career change, a business idea, a period of lower income, without it threatening the entire financial foundation. Debt at this level is still present, mortgages, sometimes car finance, but it tends to be more intentional. These households have typically developed the habit of saving and investing consistently alongside servicing their obligations. They are not just paying the minimum and hoping. This is a transition bracket. Households that sustain deliberate financial habits here, investing regularly, not allowing lifestyle inflation to consume every pay rise, diversifying beyond the home, tend to move upward. And once the compounding of diversified investments begins to build momentum, the trajectory becomes self-reinforcing. Upper class, 75th to 90th percentile. A household net worth between roughly £550,000 and £1.5 million places you in the upper class bracket. This is the top quarter to top 10th of British households by wealth. The financial picture at this level looks genuinely different to everything below it. Multiple asset types are typically present: property equity, pension funds, stocks and shares ISAs, taxable investment accounts, and in some cases rental property or business interests. The critical shift, and this is the defining characteristic of this bracket, is that investments have now overtaken home equity as the primary component of net worth. That inversion represents a fundamental change in how wealth functions. A household whose net worth is 70 or 75% in investments rather than property equity holds wealth that is working continuously, generating returns, compounding, producing income. It is not simply appreciating passively, it is actively growing. Getting to this bracket, and staying here, is almost always the product of established habits applied consistently over time. The people in this range did not typically receive a windfall. They built it through deliberate behaviour repeated over years and decades. And the compounding effect, once it has had time to work at this scale, begins to carry significant momentum of its own. The top 10%. To reach the top 10th of British households by net worth, a household needs approximately £1.5 million or above. At this level, wealth functions in a categorically different way. Investments dominate the picture. Property equity, while often present, represents a relatively small share of total net worth. Stock portfolios, investment property, business equity and other assets are generating dividends, rental income, capital growth, and in some cases, business profits. The wealth is not simply stored, it is producing. Some households at this level have reached full financial independence. Their assets, invested and managed appropriately, can support their lifestyle indefinitely without requiring employment income. Others are still working, by choice rather than necessity. But their substantial financial foundation gives them a quality of freedom and optionality that most people will never experience. The ability to take a calculated risk, to turn down an opportunity that does not align with what they want, to support family members, to plan across generations rather than months. Even within the top 10%, the range is considerable. A household at the entry threshold of £1.5 million is in a fundamentally different position to one with £10 million or more, But even at the entry point, the resources, flexibility and compounding acceleration available are genuinely beyond what the vast majority of British households will ever access. A note on age and trajectory. All of these numbers need to be read in the context of where someone is in their life. A 26-year-old with £8,000 in net worth is not in the same position as a 55-year-old with £8,000 in net worth. The data does not make that distinction automatically. Younger households typically sit in the lower brackets, simply because they have had less time to accumulate, not because anything has gone wrong. The number that matters most is not your current position, it is the direction and pace of your trajectory. Are you building? Are you reducing debt? Are you investing, even modestly? Are you resisting the pull of lifestyle inflation as your income grows? People who are intentional about those questions tend to move up the ladder over time, and often faster than they expect. The wealth ladder, in summary, below. £18,000 is the lower class. The bottom, 25% of British households. Between £18,000 and £175,000 is the lower middle class. The 25th to 50th percentile. Between £175,000 and £550,000 is the upper middle class. The 50th to 75th percentile. Between £550,000 and £1.5 million is the upper class. The 75th to 90th percentile. Above £1.5 million is the top 10%. The gaps between each step are not uniform, they widen considerably as you move up. And by the top 10%, the compounding of investments has typically created a self-reinforcing momentum that looks almost unlike the wealth building process at the lower levels. But here's the honest takeaway. Where you sit today is simply your current position, not a permanent assignment. Understanding the actual numbers in real terms is the starting point for doing something about them. The people who climb this ladder consistently are not doing something extraordinary. They're making ordinary choices, spending less than they earn, investing the difference, staying the course, repeated over years until the compounding does the heavy lifting for them. That's available to more people than tend to believe it.